Hello there. Episode 6 incoming. Bum bum boom. That means the launcher was launched. And shortly thereafter, here is the intro. Lagged. Oof. 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 Great sync. Great frame rate. Great frame drops. I commend you, Bethesda. Wait. There we go. So, more encoder settings have been changed. Hopefully there shouldn't be any frame fuck-ups. I don't really know what more I can change. Everything... Literally, I'm enforcing the YouTube streaming guidelines, so there should be no problem, but apparently the problem is with me and my computer and my encoding or something, so let's just see how this one looks, okay? Yes, I shall disable preview, move that, and here we go. Really, mouse? What are you stuck on? Okay, so it's been a while, a few days, for me at least. If you have any interest in this, you're probably watching it back to back. That's how I tend to watch videos on YouTube anyway. So this will be a bit of a break in continuity, I guess, but yes. We're here, it's raining. People are sleeping. This is what I don't get with the Bethesda weather engine, or whatever it's called in Fallout 4. Wherever you are, everything gets wet. Absolutely everything, even if it's supposedly covered. Which is like, what? That shows laziness to me. But then again, this engine is, well, it should have been not used for this game, and definitely not for 76. Holy crap, that was a beyond retarded decision. Anyway, I might have nuked some synth components last episode, I just realized, but well, I don't actually know if they have a value, so I mean 20 here, I guess. Well, also I need to check something, because I fucked around with the console in my other save, and I hope it's not it's not persistent. Good on you, Bethesda, for not fucking that up. Speaking of, we did set up that food extractor thingy. So there's nothing in there, perfect. Which means everything should be in here, yeah? Which means there's a bunch of meat, fruit, potatoes, and melons, mostly potatoes. With potatoes and water, glass and steel, you can make it all together. I don't think that's really profitable, so I will just take all of that food and cook it, because XP, and that's something we need. Oh yeah, that's also something I realized. Let's look at a map. So, here we are at Sanctuary. I'll assume this is some center location, or it's up here in the corner. Either way, it's not that far distance between Sanctuary and the top left corner, which I assume is 0, 0. Now, what I assume, and I kind of experienced this and probably you too if you've played any Fallout 4, is that as you get further down the map, and specifically further down and to the right, it gets harder and harder. And specifically, I think, I'm not, what's the word? I've not verified it, but I think that the difficulty of the level of the enemy spawn, the levels that they have and the gear they have, is basically relative to the distance away from Sanctuary, or the distance away from 0, 0. So it's literally a circle, a circle segment that basically spans upwards over the whole map. So the difficulties around here, I think, would be roughly the same. So when I moved all the way here to the right, I went basically the whole distance of the map. So I ranked up the difficulty to basically max. That begs another question. When you get down to here, it's above 1 normalized length, that is. It's greater than one side of the map, which should be around here or something somewhere, given Pythagoras' theorem. Distance from here to there-ish should be longer than the side of the whole map. So that should be even more difficult than when I was up here. But it shows I had reasons for my anger and for my what the fuck is this? Yeah. And that's just, I don't know, is that a thing the game should tell you? Like, the further away you go from Sanctuary, the harder it gets? Maybe? I mean, just saying it like that, it doesn't really sound as a boring length calculation, although it is. It just sounds like a fun gameplay element if you present it as what it is, with a bit of salt and spices, I guess. So, what are we doing here? I have no idea. I'm going around looking at a wrecked house. But, I don't know, what will we do? Oh yeah, cook food. I took all the food, let's cook food. Well, it seems like we can make nothing but vegetable starch. We should plant some corn. Yeah. F, that's awful. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna... It did say I had some corn, so let's go to resources, food. Yeah, one of these, I guess. And just pop them down. Oh wait, we have a Brahmin? Are you serious? That's awesome. Wait, that means, yes, we have a new villager. Hi there. Wait, I can't it shows up as an unassigned NPC. If I go close, will it move? Ish, yeah. That will serve as a reference test for later. If I install that mod, which has an acronym name, which is only speak when spoken to, OSPV, yeah, whatever. I wonder if the cow will also shut up. That would be interesting. It would show that cows are just modified settlements NPCs, I guess. Either directly from the base NPC class or... Actually, that begs another question. Is the NPC, or are the settlers in a settlement, are they different from other NPCs? Are they subclassed in any way? Does this engine even use class systems? I have no idea. Who the fuck cares? But yes. That means we have find jobs for the unemployed, assigned to farming. Wait, what? The Brahmin is counted as a seller? 1. Okay, let's count with it. 1. Outwards is not counted. Two, 3. 4. Ah. So the Brahmin just came on its own. Don't do that, engine. You make me think I'll fall through the world. Random. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh wait, yeah, here's Sheffield. So there is 4. So wait. I don't even know anymore. And let's check. Are these cared for? No. That sucks. How about I store some of these? Because realistically, we don't need these many potato plants. God, there's so many unused potato plants. Let's remove a few extra so that we know it's going to be... Let's see. No? Oof. I have several questions. Sheffield? Oh. Okay, there we go. What? Did I see you over here? Melon. Gourd. Okay. Kind of need more mute fruits then, because I only got 1 mute fruit plant really. Good. Mute fruit. That's a good amount, I think. None of them are going to be active. So Sermon Beacon still on. I mean, it shows up. It must be, so yeah.
Attention Commonwealth residents.
Yep.
Are you looking for a safe place to settle?
Nope. Already live here. Apparently we leveled up. Let's throw this back. Because we can't really do crap with it. Let's level up, as I said. Place a live grenade in someone's inventory. I would like to start focusing on melee weapons though, because they are superior, I guess. Superior close combat anyway. Which is what I'll be doing if I'll be sneaking around. Or supposedly sneaking around. I have no idea what this gun I though. It's a bit weird. I think I'm just gonna drop it off. Uh, 556. I'd rather have something that takes the 4-5 round actually. So I'll be leaving that, I think.
Got work to do. Can't talk now.
What? What are you?
I just want to trade a few things.
Go ahead.
Thank you, I'll take that bobby pin. I need it more than you probably.
Hope you ain't one of them synths here to spy on me.
I just want to trade a few things.
Of course.
Why is everyone so anti on me? Just like real life, fuck off game. Let's go somewhere and let's have fun. Let's not go anywhere near here because that's just painful. Let's be here somewhere. So actually, let's not even fast travel. We're gonna take a nice walk. And we're gonna see what happens. See what we see. See what we find. See what stories there are to tell and discover. I wonder what this is. Ooh, blood leaf. Again, I have no idea what the use for blood is. Blood leaf is. But I don't know, I like collecting stuff, so I collect it. Oh, there's someone here.
candy.
Wait. Wait just a second. Oh. Actually, wait.
Candy.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Who's there?
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
That's what Max said. Stop making sounds, please. Why is it only making sounds as I move? Why is it just the same sound played over and over again? What is this? Why are they standing there? Is this... Poor rag stands. And they just went away. Perfect! No annoying sounds from them. What? Oh. Why can't I just directly play this? Oh well.
There we go.
Ah! Appropriate! 5% reduction on melee attacks. So there we go. Ranger cabin discovered. That factory is closer, I think. Let's go there. Whoop. Okay, maybe it was angry for a different reason.
Hey,
Can I
Vsauce,
just
Michael here.
make this easy? Twice. What's the third? Oh. Really? Really? I mean, I have a hit ratio of like 68%, but fuck, even I'm better than that sometimes. Wicked shipping, fleet lockup. That scared me. And blood coming out of nowhere, typical Bethesda. What do you mean I'm bashing him?
Chocolate?
Chocolate, yes, yes, shout out.
Got it.
Ooh.
Powering up. Protectron on duty.
Please don't hit me, please don't hit me, please don't hit me, please don't hit me, please don't hit me.
Hard hats are required while
Okay, okay, oh, yes. Oh shit. Fuck. I don't have a hard hat. I'm not gonna be able to comply with this robot, I think.
a work site. Please wear your hard hat.
Please don't be angry because I don't have a hard hat.
Protect and serve.
Yep, Okay, we cool? We cool?
Warning. Union violation detected. Last recorded break was 9,999 hours ago.
Yeah, that's me not wearing a hard hat, I assume.
Hard hats are required while within a work site.
Would be fun if they added that as a
Hard hat.
fun, dedicated line. Chocolate, yes. Let's see if the Protectron can help. Hey!
Prevailed.
Protectron still seems to be on my side, that's nice.
Warning. Union violation detected. Last recorded break was 9,999 hours ago.
Oof. This is some cramped space right here. And I need to shut off that radio. I need to shut off that radio. Blah 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 blah. Okay, there we go. Fuck you, fuck you, YouTube, for making me have to do that. That's another thing. I don't think the people at YouTube fully realize what consequences, like, I don't think they realize what consequences that has for them, or like for Google in general. Like the act of them typing that versus, I mean, it's just in this game, it's a completely different output. Imagine how big of, just imagine the butterfly effect on top of all that on a world scale such as the Google services. I don't think they fully realize like how they're controlling people's lives, and in a way their own lives almost. Oh well, that's... Ooh! That's why it's useful to go through these. Anyway, let's not get political, let's play a game. Let's try and soothe the pains of living in a dying and destroyed world. Played by greed, I guess. Yeah, awkward silence, I'm sorry. But I guess that's just life nowadays. Life nowadays just is different. Very different from what it was. And it will be very different in the future. So, if anything, we can derive some hope out of that. But statistically, it's not really. Hope isn't bright, let's just say that. There's a very real chance the world might turn out like this world. We go to this world of Fallout to forget. And in doing that, we're probably making Fallout real, little by little, day by day, hour by hour, and minute by minute. That's some wicked poetry at wicked shipping services. Let's continue on our journey. Actually, let's get some parts from this fella. I don't have a hacking software for him. Can I just shut him down? If I just shut him down, he'll go back to the charging port. So
I did not hit her.
Continued resistance is unlawful.
oh, nice nice light nice visual glitch there.
I did not hit her.
Do not.
I did not hit her.
Law and order will be restored shortly.
Are you sure about that?
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
I did not hit her. I did not hit her. I did not hit her. I did not hit her.
Oof. Very interesting. So the mask mesh is still there for the light and the light itself. Also, why is a protectron so light? This makes no sense. I mean, just look at the sluggishness of that versus that. And also, it's called a utility protectron. It's supposed to be a construction worker protectron. I think that protectron has been tampered with in the editor. It's been changed in some way, I think. So, let's... oh. Both flies, perfect. Come here.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here. Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Hey! That actually worked pretty nice. I like the concept of using bats with melee. Shouldn't be near her for long.
That's it.
Lots of ads. Oof. Ooh. Ah, I took your pillow. Bunch of cigarettes, a cigar. No smoking. Yeah, that's a nice little outlook, I guess. What's this? Something I haven't discovered at least, so let's go to it. Is that you, Carla?
Hey, Carla.
Hey there. Trading?
Yeah, I guess.
I've got a few minutes to browse.
Nice camera.
You buy it.
Very nice camera angle we got going on here. Ooh, fusion core, even though that's kinda expensive. Oh, I want that. I want that. It's only 127 DPS though. I mean, I could. He's technically doing nothing. Ooh, they're fucking expensive though. Holy shit. Yeah, not today. I like you, Carla, but your prices are a bit too fucked. Puh. Nope. I'm not gonna let that happen. Chocolate indeed. Oh!
Chocolate? Chocolate?
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Okay, okay, okay.
Chocolate!
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Okay. Okay, I'm beginning to get how to like use VATS and the tempo app. Yeah, let's see what this is.
Chocolate? Chocolate? Chocolate!
Oh, that arm is clearly still attached though, because it just the way it rotated. Oh, looks so. What that is. Someone down there at least. Toaster in the bathtub. Please don't do that, kids. That's very much dangerous. Ooh, cement. Looty, looty, looty. This is a more elaborate saw than I thought. What the okay, I need to turn that off. Thank you. And there are rats here.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Oh, nice. You can actually sneak up on ghouls. Oh, I guess Wayne Gorski. Yeah, that's what you get when you sit in a room with decaying nuclear waste, man. Fucking oof. Yeah, there's no more. Ooh, lots of things. Mini nuke. What? All the parts of a nuke? I could carry that ghoul, but not the other one. I mean, what the fuck? Why is this game so inconsistent, Bethesda? What the fuck?
Piece of candy.
Yes.
Diamond City is now permanently marked on your map. What? Like, even in a new game? Let's see if we are lucky. Nope. 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 Whole rude rock. Mean lone wake. News lose fire. Nice golf tour. Lift wild hold. Sand flag what? Type sold star. Meet fall loot. Evil huge tree.
I'm in.
Yeah, evil huge tree. I know that's not what it. I know it's just tree, but this will be my first and only entry. I identify myself as free-thinking citizens of the once great United States. I will not stand idly by as the government infects the minds of its people with devices like the electrical tower they've erected in my front lawn. I pledge to take down this mind control device by any means necessary. Incendiary device. You can redeem this evidence after being killed or detained in a government interrogation camp. Surely work the truth and brand me as a communist traitor. Do not need realize. Okay. Cool, but you turned into a ghoul. Feral one. Game. Meep meep. That went really nice, that transition there. Find some parts of a mini nuke. Was that on the tower? Fuck off, Windows. Why would you just interrupt me like that, Windows? No. Can I, like, disable this? Can I, like, game mode or something? Windows G? Is that game mode? Nope. Okay, whatever, fuck off. I'm gonna switch to Linux soon. It's just one of the small drops that make me like, why? Why? Let's check out this farm over here. Won't attack me. Should be safe. Oh! It's this place. Abernathy Farms. Oh. Yeah, don't mind me, I'm just raiding on the potato.
Here? Well, if you've got anything worth trading, you can talk to me. All right.
Free, you say? Thank you very much. Oh! Oh god, that's some expensive wood right here. 335 caps for 50 pieces, what the frick?
You want to buy or sell something?
No.
Maybe later. Let me know if you change your mind.
Can't I, like, ally this settlement? Oof. No?
Here for work? We could use some help picking melons if you've got some spare time. I'll give you caps for any you can bring me.
You look like you have a pretty successful farm here.
We'd like to think so. Having Clarabelle helps. Free fertilizer, as Daddy would say. Whatever saves caps.
Clarabelle? Who's that?
Claire is our Brahmin. I like to consider her just as much a part of the family as Maisie. She's our cat, in case you were going to ask about her too.
Sure. I got time to help out.
Great. Doesn't have to be now, but whenever you get the time.
Okay. So, maybe we can pick lemons. Oh! Fuck. Tell you what. Since we're on this timeline, let's see it through. Okay.
Lucy?
We're in some real trouble here. I hope you can help. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Don't forget, caps for melons. Lugging those around is hard work.
That's close enough, stranger. We're a peaceful farm. We don't want any trouble.
It's okay. I'm friendly. Not looking to cause any trouble.
If you say so, but be warned, we're armed here. So don't try anything. Let me tell you, farming ain't easy.
Okay, that actually played out good.
And every minute of it spent watching your back.
Gotta be careful. Never know who you can trust these days.
Won't argue with that. Blake Abernathy. Been ages since I've seen one of those vault suits around. You new to these parts?
Yes. And no. It's a long story.
Either way, good to see a new face. How about you? Ever think about working the land?
Don't know. Never really thought about it.
I mean, I do have a farm, but I don't work in it.
Word of advice, though. If you do start up a farm, be ready to deal with the raiders. Why do all the hard work when you can just take what you want at gunpoint?
Yeah.
Bastards. All of them.
Last time those raiders hit us, my daughter Mary tried to stand up to them. Now she's buried out back of the house. Only 21 years old, and they shot her down without a thought. That's why we need the Minutemen back. And the sooner, the better.
About that. Given this game's programming, the Minutemen are never gonna appear, so...
There's nothing worse than losing a child.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
I'm sorry to hear you say so. I don't have much to offer, but those raiders that killed Mary, they took her locket too. It's been in Connie's family for generations. If you could get it back, it'd mean a lot to us.
Don't worry. I'll get that locket back for you.
Good.
There we go. And that's the actual
She'll rest easy again as long
way to ally this settlement, I guess. I was planning a way long-winded conversation that I was actually planning on tabbing out on. But yeah. Yeah, apparently Bethesda actually supports or thought about you accidentally stealing things, like I did there. She shouted stop. I ran and then stopped and came back. And she took the items I stole, and it was cool. Awesome. Let's try that one more time. I will actually do a proper save, and I will steal a bunch of things.
Why can't this just be over? So that's it, huh?
No, no. Okay, so if you steal too much, they're gonna be pissed. But what happens if...
Oh, damn. Here we go.
No. It was just one thing. Connie! 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 Why did it work before? I'm confused. Bethesda, your games have no consistency. At all. Wait, it was bottles I stole before. Fuck, that didn't trigger. I want them to see me. Come on. Where do we have something stealable in plain sight?
Got no reason to trust strangers, so maybe you should be moving along.
Maybe I should. Can't find a bottle. Anyone inside? Okay. Apparently that cooking pot is free. Oh yes, I know what to do. Bring this outside and stick it in my pocket right in front of them. How about that, eh? Detected.
That doesn't belong to you. What the?
Okay, I mean... I have several questions here. All of which are too much of a programming thing to be of any interest to anyone. That's the deep sigh and silence of someone who will never have anyone understand them. At least the white bottles are free. Oh, paint! Nice. Not gonna steal that. I just realized they built it into one of these power balls. That's nice. Very nice. So apparently it's okay stealing the first time or something. After that it's serious. Meow. 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 Moo. Moo and meow. Let's see. Where go? South, I guess. Woven pond. Good to have, I guess. Some buildings, I guess we could loot those.
Hello, and welcome to Walden Pond. You are now standing in front of the cabin. You are now standing in front of the cabin inhabited by transcendentalist writer and philosopher Henry David Thoreau, starting in the summer of 1845. For 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, Thoreau lived in this cabin, hoping to gain a more objective understanding of society. This experiment was influenced by Thoreau's interest in transcendentalist philosophy, which believed that people were at their best when truly self-reliant. By living off the land with few material possessions, Thoreau proved it skeptical to think that any outward improvement of life could bring inner peace and contentment. For more information, please visit the gift shop and purchase one of the many books on transcendentalism. Also available, t-shirts, coffee mugs, toys, and many other items to commemorate your trip. Thank you for visiting Walden Pond, sponsored by General Atomics, maker of the Mr. Handy robotic assistant.
Of course it's sponsored by... Yeah, I already forgot it. Mm-hmm. Ah. I do actually remember this from my other save. Oh, so that thing was hooked up. Ooh. That's a bit scary. Hey, toys. Toys. Let's see what's inside the suitcase.
That's it.
The bobby pin, I guess. Let's go and read this note. Please, if you're reading this, then you're an idiot. This is the last time I tell you. We're locking this door. Use the entrance in the sewer pipes next time you forget. I'm locking you... Ah. Next time you forget, I'm locking your ass up permanently.
Ooh, piece of candy.
No way I can pick this. Don't think I can pick this.
Oof. So... yeah, what did it say? Sewer pipe. I assume that sewer pipe is in the pond, then? Oh my god, it is. Oh my fucking god, this is a disgusting pond. Ugh. Disgusting! By the way, how's my OBS doing? Just fine. Just fine. Now we're actively only using 20% to encode, so hopefully... although it might be a bit shitier.
Sure he had everything he needed before he started his camping trip in that little shack up top. Double-checked his list and everything. And that's why they call it being the road.
Oh, and this guy invented
Transdentalism, moron. You sound like an idiot.
How the hell you know all this?
I read a book that one time, when we ran out of grognacks.
I wish I could read.
And thank you for fucking up my Pip-Boy. I can't even see the stats. I'm grossly offended. Combat knife. Fast, 14 damage. Medium, 17 damage. Plus 16 electric damage.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Oh, that was a nice linear mode interpolation thing. Who's that?
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
Tweeze.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
Should I? Yeah, let's shoot his head off. Ask first. Ask first. No, 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 no. Shoot first. Ask questions later.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Ooh! Nasty. Nasty. Oh, there's still people down here apparently.
Bingo.
Nice. Yeah, whatever.
Piece of candy.
Nice. I think that's mostly all of it for here. Let's continue down here. Strangely enough, when you remove those, it should make a sound because it makes sounds to you, but it doesn't make a sound for the NPC. Oh hi. I second it there.
Piece of candy.
Hey, Vsauce,
How did you
Michael
not
here.
see me?
Lock's really strong.
Oof. Next level we're gonna... Oh, actually wait. No, we can't do lockpicking because we're level restricted there. Oof.
Piece of candy.
Oof. That's a gift shop key at least. Oh! Goes here too. Nice.
Piece of candy. Piece of candy. Candy.
Given what was in that locker, they were heavy drug users. What?
Perfect.
Oh!
Piece of candy.
There's a nice selection of easy boots. Oh no. Oh no. Oh! Oh, that's awesome. Yep. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Did I hear an explosion or something? Whoop. Okay. To continue, we were going over here. Why? No idea. Because why not? Oh, Sunshine Tidings co-op. To my knowledge, this is just... Oh, that's a toilet. Ugh. I don't really want that bucket anymore. Yeah, this is just a bunch of drugged robots, essentially.
Piece of candy.
Clear the enemies. SKTES. Who's what? Movie indeed. Scale start piece. No. Steed Ghost Viral. Oil. No. Shit. Just be. I don't want you to fly away like you did in my last save. I think it's still gonna be here. Guard protocols. Wait, what? Oh. Okay, so it's with me. Yeah, I think he's even following me. Nice. Heating exterminate is gonna be very... Oof. Okay, apparently that robot's doing nothing. Did a horrible job guarding. Not much I can say. Didn't really want that, but Press D, gotta have it. Big oof.
You suck.
Got it.
May I help you?
Fucking stoned. Out of his mind.
Chocolate?
Up! And while we're at it, let's take... Shit. Ah, fuck. No! No! Shit. Nice. Rest in peace, settler. You are carrying too much and cannot run. You are over cucumbered.
Piece of candy. Piece of candy. Piece of candy.
75 compared to 113. Nope, sorry. Also with that. And we'll get some of those.
Piece of candy.
Whoa. Not much there. Ugh. Scare me a bit. Yay! However, this means we need to set up the fence because oof. Nice. Now I can set this to be shut down, I guess. I don't really need him. There he is. Interesting. Anyway, with that done, let's walk over here. Wild corn. Nice. Once upon a time, this was probably some kind of combine harvesting corn, I guess.
Piece of candy.
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
Raiders. I think he died. Otherwise they know where I am, I think.
Show your face. Come on, I dare you.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy.
Oh, I know you're here. I'll fight.
No sign of him now.
Oh, there's where you are. Okay. How about this?
Ooh, piece of candy.
I sneak in and wreck all of you one by one, one on one.
Who's
Yeah?
there?
No one. Absolutely no one. I'm now not here. Please don't come out there, please don't come out there.
There now.
Nothing. Nope. Nope, not here. Nope.
You guys got me stirred up over nothing.
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
He's facing my direction, I think.
What the fuck was that?
Nothing.
Huh? Pack it in, boys. There's nothing out there.
Exactly, don't just be squeamish.
Who?
It's kind of ridiculous that I can do that in the first place.
Hey, who's there?
No one.
You're getting paranoid. There ain't nothing here.
Hey, Vsauce. Michael here.
Oof! Shot me. No. Bad dog. Do they never learn? Because I learned yesterday. Caps lock, please.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
Walk, please. Move, please. For fuck's sake, game. Don't do this. Don't do this. Move. Oh my god. Why am I over encumbered suddenly? Like, what? Like, fuck off, game. Oh, come on. Literally, what am I? What did I pick up? Here we go. Oh, fusion core. Mine. That's how it goes. When you shoot first, you just alert people to where you are. Oof.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
You are carrying too much and you get too Of course. Oh, he's underneath me, probably. Oh, it's so slow. And I'm out of ammo. Perfect. Scrapping a mini nuke basically gives you a bunch of nuclear material and steal them. What's that? Huh. How many are we now? 5! Another one got here. There we go, assign one to farming. There, now there should be a bunch of new fruit being assigned as well. Yeah, nice. And maybe even this gourd. Nope. Sad gourd. Not even like my lemon either. Oof. Not that one. And why are we getting lemons? Guess I... Yeah. That one. Is everything, I guess. Okay, I'm tired of this fenced in area now. Oh. Hi dog. This person cannot be... This person? Okay. Apparently... That's... Apparently this is a person. Like what? But yes, something. I should do some more inventory dumping. Let's see, what's the most weighty thing in our backpack? Here's some corn. Which means I can configure this to pull out the corn. Mm-hmm. There you go, much better. 126. Oh, okay. Nice. Dropped all that off. Still some stuff to get over there. I think it's worth getting that until we go into the stockpile anyway. This is asbestos. Bone.
Out here, you gotta take things one day at a time.
The farm's not much, but it's something.
Lost track of how many blisters I got.
I don't even need to hit E on them, and every time I go up to them they talk. Except for when they sleep, of course. This fellow might be stuck in the bed. That would be fun.
I just want to trade a few things.
Okay.
Yeah, he's stuck. Otherwise he would have stood up.
Let's trade some things.
Of course.
Yeah, this is... Okay, yes, there we go.
Okay.
Oh, what? Oh. Hey, you.
I just need to trade gear with you.
Sure.
F. Okay. So. What do now? That's too fast. Does it seriously like nuke all my items every time I do this now? It feels like it definitely goes through it too fast. It's like this item just goes poof. It certainly feels like that way. And for the record, they've stopped again, so this delayed on switch has done nothing. Those stop. Really? It's permanently broken now? Oh my god, Bethesda, can you do anything correctly? Is this related to all my items disappearing? Like, why does the belt stop? Why does all the sound effects related to the belt stopping also stop? Why does this keep happening? Oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus. Well, we have a Brahmin, so I'm gonna turn off that beacon tower. Is it inside the house? Yep. Oh. Yeah, Brahmin will tend to stay near their feet trough. Near indeed, if you count direct distance. If you count actual pathing distance, it's a bit longer, isn't it now? Hey, Bethesda? Idiots. And we have floating corn.
Seems to be growing well.
It's like I can finally think straight.
Need to get back to
Can't
Diamond
remember
City.
the last time I had clean fingernails.
Don't care much for good neighbor. That place, nothing but trouble.
Let's plant some more corn. I wonder, why can't you plant wild corn or wild potatoes?
Got work to do. Can't talk now. Let's trade.
No. Eh. Ah. A little bit of maintenance at the house. Or at Sanctuary, I guess. A farm slash factory slash survival grounds? Yes, survival grounds. Sanctuary survival grounds. You don't need no stinking tree, get out of there. Very nice indeed. Perfect. But yes, that should mean I should get fertilizer now. I'm gonna take out all the fertilizer. Okay. So I took out all the fertilizer. And I'll slap that can in there. What the hell? Even the sounds are broken. But yeah, slap one in there. And hopefully our fertilizer should end up there too. That should be a continuous process as well. I don't know if we need to take the fertilizer out. Woo! So we have 4 fertilizer in here. If that goes up, then I'm happy. Tell you what, I will take this fertilizer, that single fertilizer, and I will stick it back in here. If there's more than one fertilizer, we know we don't need to take it out. But if there aren't, I'll stick it in here, and if it grows from 4 in here then it's basically the same as with the food. I don't think it's exactly the same as the food. Or water, for that matter. Really? Nothing? Oof. Oh yeah, wait, I dumped everything. Oh well. Ugh. Tell you what, I don't really see this going anywhere, so we'll stop it here. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Oh, I should have done exit save. Oh well. There we go. Goodbye.